Dream Team, it's your boy Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with why Daniel Ricciardo chose Red Bull return over an F1 race seat for 2023. I don't understand, to be honest, why Daniel left Red Bull in the first place. I mean, like I be telling y'all, I'm watching the show. He did pretty good in the first season of the show, at least. Like, he was doing decent. I mean, he wasn't like on track to like compete for the championship, driver championship. And then they did have Max Verstappen up and coming. And bro, anybody who watches racing, I don't even need to watch the show, but who watches F1, like, you know how hard it is to like drive with Max as a teammate, bro, because y'all got the same car, like, and Max is just constantly winning everything. And it's like, well, dang, I'm in the same car as him. Like, why am I not finishing on the podium if we got the same whip and he constantly winning? So I understand. Then it seemed like they started putting more of their effort and energy into Max. But Daniel, I mean, you was with Red Bull, bro. You was with Red Bull. And he left for Renault, and I barely, it was season 2. I ain't seen him finish on the podium not once so far. I'm like 6 episodes deep. So maybe he will, but I just don't think he ever should have left Red Bull to begin with. But now Red Bull got Checo, and Checo, I mean, Max is in first in the driver championship, Checo in second. I'm assuming that's exactly how Red Bull wants it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we got 2 drivers that finished 1 and 2. We got all the points coming. This is exactly how we want it. But we finna jump into this. I went on too long of a rant. But make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. What we got?
Daniel Ricciardo is going back to where it all began. No, not HRT. He's rejoining Red Bull. The outgoing McLaren driver has decided he'd rather spend next year being wheeled out for Red Bull marketing stunts than racing in F1 for a team like...
Oh, dang. So he was with McLaren? So, because I'm only in season 2 of the show, F1 Drive to Survive. So, he went, did he go from, I guess I'll see. So, it sounded like he went from Renault to McLaren, I assume.
Haas. There's more to Ricciardo's move than
he
just some
drove
good
with Haas.
PR, though. Red Bull's been quick to play down the prospect of Ricciardo being an option for a race seat, but we know Ricciardo only wanted to do a deal that helps him get back onto the grid for 2024. Ooh. That means there's loads to get into here, so make sure you comment, like and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to be made aware of our future videos, as we'll have plenty for you to keep watching during the F1 off-season.
Dang, so he turned down Haas to go back to Red Bull. How he could have had a driver's seat at Haas, which Haas, it's just, they're mid-level. Red Bull is top tier. But it's like, I don't see him getting a driver's seat in 2024 with Sergio Perez, bro. Like, so he's cold. Like, he in second place right behind Max Verstappen in the championship. So you can't take him out of, like, a driver who comes in second in the driver world championship. Like, you can't take his seat. So it's like, what does my guy mean, like, set up for a seat in 2024?
Ricciardo is set to be announced in an off-track role with Red Bull as a glorified third or reserve driver. Red Bull Motorsports advisor Helmut Marko jumped to the gun when he confirmed Ricciardo would be back with the team as its reserve in 2023 before a contract had actually been signed. But we understand that by the time the paddock packed away on Sunday evening in Abu Dhabi, the deal had been closed and an official announcement is imminent. Ricciardo's future has been the subject of much speculation since he agreed to end his McLaren F1 contract a year early to make way for Alpine reserve Oscar Piastri. He refused to entertain race seats at lower midfield teams such as Haas or Williams for 2023, preferring...
Williams, boy. That's... I'm still, like I said, I'm only on season 2 of the show, but god dang, I'm surprised Williams still in F1. Bro, it seems like they're just absolutely awful, bro. Like, they're always in the back of the pack. They're in the back. I barely hear about them on the show anymore, bro. They always in the back. So I'm surprised that they even still in F1. But I guess they are.
Trying to take a sabbatical
they may be better now. I'm only in season 2, which is like 2019, I think. So that may be better.
Racing in order to recover from a difficult and at times demoralising stint with McLaren, and he wants to target a return to a top team. Lewis Hamilton said Ricciardo was too good to be an F1 reserve driver, but that's what the 8-time Grand Prix winner has decided is best for him, sort of. Ricciardo is believed to have had some discussions with Mercedes, but settled on a return to the team that gave him his big break in F1 in 2014 and propelled him to 7 of those 8 victories, plus 2 top 3 finishes in the World Championship in 2014 and 16.
That's crazy.
Ricciardo won't be your average reserve driver being dragged around the world and attending the majority of races for no reward. Red Bull Juniors Liam Lawson and Dennis Hauger will be doing a lot of the donkey work. As we understand, Ricciardo will be at 7, maximum 8 races next year, primarily in North America, but at other major events as well. It'll be a surprise, for example, if he doesn't turn up on home soil in Australia. Beyond that, expect Red Bull to trot Ricciardo out at various promotional events and put him behind the wheel of some show cars. It won't all be superficial stuff like that though. Ricciardo's set to conduct simulator work for Red Bull, so he's prepared to drive should the team actually need to call on him, and he might even get to drive a car as well. Whether
That'd be
Red Bull
pretty
would
dope.
sacrifice any ultra-rare in-season test days like the Pirelli tests remains to be seen, but it's also an option for the team to give Ricciardo some running in a 2021 car if it wanted to seriously evaluate a driver whose reputation has taken a beating over the last couple of years.
Why he picked
Ricciardo
it over
returning
us.
to Red Bull might make little sense for both parties on the surface. Even in
Kinda.
a specific role, to borrow the word Red Bull team boss Christian Horner used to describe Ricciardo's contract, why is Red Bull interested in a driver that walked away 4 years ago? And why does Ricciardo want to be back with that team instead of guaranteeing he stays on the grid, given there was at least preliminary interest from Haas?
Facts.
Let's start with Red Bull, which believes Ricciardo's McLaren form could just be an aberration. Ricciardo's struggles at McLaren have mystified many people in the paddock, including Horner. Several times this season, the Red Bull boss has observed how strange he thinks it
Gee, was he that bad at McLaren, bro? Like, god dang. Was he this bad?
is. Back in Belgium, when Ricciardo's early McLaren exit had been announced, Horner said F1 was not seeing the real Daniel Ricciardo. And recently, speaking exclusively to us, Horner said he had been amazed at how badly the move has worked out, and he
What he said, something just hasn't worked with that team when they haven't managed to unplug his ability. That was so evident when he drove here.
insisted Ricciardo is better than he's showing. So the indication is that Red Bull, or certainly Horner, thinks what Ricciardo has done at McLaren is an anomaly.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's be honest, if Ricciardo was to step in for Max
God
Verstappen or Sergio
dang.
Perez and perform at the average level he has at McLaren, that would be underwhelming. But
Yeah.
there is a belief within Red Bull that in the right environment, with a good car, Ricciardo can be the high-quality driver he was before McLaren. And that's a different proposition entirely. Then he becomes a stunning reserve option and potentially more. If Horner's right that the real Daniel Ricciardo is still capable of much more than we've seen at McLaren, then every other team on the grid will be watching closely next year for signs that he can rediscover his spark.
I swear to
But
God.
it might be hard to spot from a distance, particularly if his time in contemporary F1 machinery is limited or even non-existent. As for Red Bull, the marketing side of this reunion makes sense for both parties. Horner knows Ricciardo is still one of the biggest names and one of the biggest characters in F1.
That's why, yeah, I think his name and his popularity. I mean, he's a good driver. He was a good driver with Red Bull. I didn't see his McLaren stint, but when he pulled up that graph, it looked terrible. But he is a big name. You know what I'm saying? You need big names. You need guys that's gonna put butts in seats. That's gonna sell tickets. That's gonna have people watching. And I think Daniel, he is one of those guys for sure.
So Red Bull gets a very popular driver to roll out at demonstrations and various activities, boosting its work in a lot of important markets. And this fits with what Ricciardo wants. He'll be well compensated for a role that won't be quite as demanding as a full-on reserve driver position, and he gets to do some fun stuff while keeping close to the grind in F1.
Yeah, that's cool.
Being involved in a top team should keep him sharp too. As he put it, there are a lot of potential positives to going to his old home. That includes benefiting from a bit of familiarity. And though it might sound weird, Ricciardo genuinely doesn't want to race next year, at least in the midfield. He needs a break. Even when we chatted to him briefly just before he walked out of the paddock for the last time in 2022, he had the air of someone who was ready for a massive F1 detox. He's spoken of this year being more difficult than his first season at McLaren, the potential slog of 24 races next year, wanting a fresh approach, and even hinting that he might not be the best version of himself without taking a break.
I feel that.
Okay,
I could definitely understand that. Just, you know what I'm saying, my guy? Red Bull, I mean, F1 is demanding, bro. Like, it's a lot of pressure all the time. Like, there's 20 seats in F1. 20. That's insane. You know how many people want those seats, bro? And you're pressured to perform week in and week out. Like, we need you. Like, know what I'm saying? It's just constant amount of pressure. So to kind of take a step back from it, get to breathe without so much pressure on you, that probably feels good for him. He be a reserve instead of driving again and being midfield, where he doesn't want to be midfield. He wants to be at the top of his game if he's to make a comeback on the grid. It's all understandable.
Let's get to the elephant in the room. Rejoining Red Bull raises the question of whether Ricciardo has a chance of a race seat there in the near future. Ostensibly, there is no availability at Red Bull before 2025. Replacing Verstappen is a no-go, not least because he has a valid contract until the end of 2028. And Perez signed a contract.
They better extend that contract to 2035 or something, bro. It's the way Max drives.
Contract extension to the end of 2024 earlier this year. So the only route to Ricciardo racing for Red Bull would be for either Verstappen or Perez to leave, whether they jump or are pushed. When asked by us if Ricciardo could become an option for a race seat at Red Bull, should he prove to the team he can be as good as he was when he was last there in 2018, team boss Horner quickly shut the prospect down. In fact, he shut it down so quickly, it almost made you think that there was definitely something in it. However, that was probably just a reflex reaction to what's been a difficult week for Red Bull. As for Ricciardo, he has said all along that whatever he does in 2023 has to get him in the best position to return to F1 in 2024. That doesn't necessarily have to be with Red Bull, maybe that's not even his goal. But while Horner tried to rule Ricciardo out of a future race seat, Ricciardo himself didn't. And even if the team doesn't admit it publicly, it's in Red Bull's interest to entertain the possibility. When the negotiations with Ricciardo started, Red Bull may well have had zero intention or even reason to consider him as an alternative to Perez, even though Perez's own form wasn't great when Ricciardo's McLaren exit was confirmed. Since then, though, things have changed. Internal tensions have recently surfaced over Perez allegedly crashing deliberately during qualifying for the Monaco Grand Prix, leading to a team orders row months later in Brazil. Verstappen's refusal to help Perez in Brazil was retribution for an incident earlier in the season, believed to be that qualifying crash, and the belief it was intentional to help Perez beat Verstappen. Max Verstappen says that things are all square there now, but we understand there was serious tension behind the scenes at Red Bull between Brazil and Abu Dhabi. Now the theory in the F1 paddock is that Ricciardo has either been targeted as a more harmonious option to soothe the Verstappen camp, or Red Bull could use the hypothetical threat of turning to Ricciardo as a weapon to keep Perez in line. Perez joined Red Bull in 2021 and has won 3 races for the team. He also played his part in Red Bull's first Constructors' Championship success since 2013. But if there is any hint of a disturbed peace internally, then his performance level alone will not be enough to save him, not in Verstappen's team, given Perez is having to play second fiddle.
Nah, I'll tell you, he's not getting Checo's seat, bro. It's gonna have to be with another team, because he's not getting a Checo seat.
So the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if Ricciardo's a long way from being seriously considered for a Red Bull race seat again. The very fact he's rejoining and will be part of the team makes him a key part of the driver lineup narrative in 2023, unless Perez makes a cast iron case on track and off it that he's still the best option.
He is, and he's making that case. He's making that case. That's how we got, though. That's crazy. But I understand why he wanted it. Didn't want to be on the grid at midfield, and why his contract is the way it is, because he still gets to kind of be on the F1 scene, but not deal with all the demands and pressure that comes with being on the grid, and just take that time to, you know what I'm saying, kind of get back familiar, get back used to it, build your way back into it slowly but surely. You know what I mean? It's not a sprint, it's a journey, it's a process. So take this year to be the replacement driver, show up when you need to show up, do the little promos when you got to, when you got to put on a special event. And then next year, you probably have another team offer your contract. If you're ready, get back on the grid. That's all we got. You guys got a favorite video suggestion? You can subscribe to Patreon and drop it in the comment section. It's your boy D Neal. Out.